All right, so it's Chad here. Obviously, one of the things I want to do is cover some things about Myers-Briggs and kind of cut through a lot of the bullcrap that's out there that people are guilty of doing. Let me go ahead and share my camera too so you can see me in the corner here. So uh, you should be seeing my screen. So let me just move that to the side. All right. So one of the things that I want to make sure you guys fully understand is that Myers-Briggs is a pretty closed system. That means it's used in a way that is supposed to be more canonical than, say, the other Jungian psychology or Jungian functions or anything like that. It's supposed to be pretty canonical. That means follows a particular way of doing things. Now, granted, there is the reason why it's that way is simply because we want to make sure we're doing it right. You want to make sure that you're not using it in a way to where it's not helping you. So it's designed to help you grow. Myers-Briggs, unlike a lot of the Jungian psychology systems, is actually designed to help you progress forward, which we're going to talk about a little later. But right now we're specifically focused on covering some of the basics. So going through here, what I'm looking for is it's somewhere in here. I want to make sure that I have it. Yeah. Ethical use of the MBTI instrument. So, the thing about the MBTI instrument is right here. I want to really cover this because I keep referring back to this over and over and over and over again when it comes to talking to people about Myers-Briggs. Every time I start any kind of typing session, anytime I start talking to somebody, I usually refer to this, and this is something that I think we all should really internalize if we're using the Myers-Briggs instrument. Now, granted, Myers-Briggs has its advantages and disadvantages to its system. So that being said, this code of ethics is what I try to follow when I use healthy typing. So a lot of this work is, I don't really, I mean, obviously we know that it's the theory as the work of Jung and the instrument as the work of Isabel Briggs Myers and Catherine Briggs, which, I mean, yeah, that's not an ethical guideline, but they recommend that we identify it. So, okay, we know that. Now, here's where it starts getting interesting. When I start getting through 5 through 8, this is where most of the issues really move in. So that's what I'm really going to focus on. So we're going to start here, though. Presents psychological type as describing healthy personality differences, not psychological disorders or fixed traits. Okay, so your type is going to it basically relates to healthy personality difference. Okay, so no type is at an advantage or disadvantage to another type, which is obviously ties into number 3 here. As we move into number 4, describe preference in types of non-judgmental terms at all times. Be aware of how your own type biases may influence your words. So one thing that I've had to work on as being a practitioner is to make sure that when I'm describing things that are not my type, so that would be ISFP, so ISFPs, if as I describe those dichotomies, I want to avoid words like these people, they don't see the big picture. That to me that's a biased statement. Okay, that's a slanted 100% statement. I'm making a claim. That's not what you want to do. They prefer to, instead you want to use words like they prefer to look at or trust, excuse me, or trust the details that are involved in. They trust the details more than, say, the big picture. Tend to pay attention to facts versus paying attention to hunches or insights. And that's what they focus their attention on typically. So again, it's non-judgmental. I'm not trying to slant one way or another, and that's what part of the typing preference process or the typing process is actually about. Is making sure that we don't do that. We want to make sure that we're actually being fair in identifying someone's type. Okay, so present type preferences as tendencies, preferences, or inclinations rather than absolutes. So though people have preferences and predispositions, all people have every capacity and function described in the theory of type. So what this is implying is that when someone says that, INFJs or, INTJs are the, can only dominant introverted intuitives will ever understand this. That is not fair to the other types, nor is it accurate in MBTI theory. Okay, so that is a directly against this particular tendency, preference, or inclination rather than absolutes. Okay, So the bottom part here is all people have every capacity and function described in the theory of types. So saying that INFPs are not good leaders, or ISFPs can't be good leaders, or ESFJs can't be good leaders, I think this is a major, major problem in typology, and it tends to segregate. Typology isn't designed to segregate. It's a personal thing that you use to move forward, figuring out what your starting point is. All right, so moving down, stress does not imply excellence, competence, or natural ability. Or I'm sorry, stress that type does not imply excellence, competence, or natural ability, only what is preferred. Again, you can't say that dominant natural intuitives, are better at this than someone else, or ESTPs are better at sports because they pay more attention to the environment. That's not necessarily true either. The metric in which one is experienced or skilled or strong in something is not gauged by their dominant or inferior functions. It's gauged by in relationship to their other functions. Okay, so you can't really compare someone else's intuition power with someone else's intuition power. There's too many variables. It's not empirical. For example, if I'm looking at a picture and I don't see something and someone else sees it, do I automatically assume that my intuition is worse than theirs? No. If I see a certain detail and they don't, do I assume that my sensing is better than theirs? No. So it doesn't, naturally being ENTJ, it doesn't imply that my TE is better than an ENFP out there. Like, oh yeah, I'm better than all ENFPs because my TE is dominant. Nor does it imply that, my TE is better than my NI, which is a whole nother topic in itself. Okay. As we scroll down, never imply that all people of a certain type behave in the same way. Type should not encourage stereotyping or be used to put people in rigid categories. Okay, so I made a joke the other day about, I think it was about INTJs, and it was on Facebook. It was a Facebook group I had joined, and and there was a picture. Somebody said, there's two types of INTJs. There's actually more than two types. Number one, but I made a joke and I said, the picture had two guys wearing skinny pants, and I said, oh, this can't be INTJs because they're wearing skinny pants. Now that's against the obviously the code of ethics. Of course, I was kidding, but the ultimate point is just saying that you can't stereotype or put people in these rigid categories because unlike Socionics, there's no subtypes. Okay, there's no type beyond a type. There's obviously different facets in MBTI, but everybody's different, and MBTI is not determining that this is your personality. Okay, it's type theory. It's not saying this is who you are. It's saying this is how your cognition is. This is what you behave or how you behave. So number 8 is explain how people can and do act in ways contrary to their preferences because of personal history, education, training, and experience, and sometimes too because of pressure from family, relationships, job environment, or culture. Consistent forced use of non-preferences may cause stress. So this is the biggest one that I want to address here. Then I'm going to close this out because I want to get into something else anyway. So this is the biggest one that I want to stress. It's people will act contrary to the types that are not preferenced in society. That being said, you're often going to find you can't really type people. I can't stress this enough. You can't effectively type people. You don't have a system to type people. I don't type people. As a practitioner, I don't type people. People type themselves. My job as a practitioner is to remove biases and help complete understanding so that people can accurately type themselves. Okay, it's not about me typing you. It's not you, hey, Chad, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars so that I can type you. No, or that you can type me. No, I can't type you. I don't know you. I can spend an hour with you. I still don't know you. I don't know your life. I don't know your history. I don't know how you see the world, and your education, training, and experience, sometimes because of pressure from family. We live in the American culture, it's a very ESTJ society. So you're going to see a lot of intuitives use S-like tendencies, right? You're going to see a lot of males use T-like tendencies, and a lot of females use F-like tendencies because these are cultural roles. These are things that we've built over hundreds of years in America, or thousands of years if you consider the course of history. So you'll see a lot of women use F-like tendencies, and you can't assume that all women are Fs because of that. Okay, it's you'll see it. You'll see the certain aspects of the F judgment, and you'll be like, "Wow, okay, this person must be an F." You can't do that. So I'm not saying don't type people. I'm saying that when you do type people, if you're doing it for fun or for whatever reason, that you do it with caution and throw out a disclaimer saying, I'm not absolutely right. I don't know you. You know yourself. You need to type yourself. Now, granted, I have my own fun while typing people, and I like to watch a TV show or a book or something and type a character. I mean, that's fun in games. There's no right answer. But as far as when it comes to typing people, I try not to type people. Now, I will state observations. Like I've seen you use, I see you use, a lot of extroverted intuition. I'm seeing that quite a bit in your personality. But does that mean that, that's who you are? No. I mean, you'll see me use extroverted intuition at all. And maybe I'm the one, maybe I just see you at a different time. Maybe someone else during at work, you're more like yourself. There's too many variables. So personal history, education, training, and experience. Okay. So what has your life taught you? And you'll learn from those things. So it's not just black and white. Oh yeah, you're this type, because I can look at you and I can tell one every time I see it. They're obviously with experience and doing this with time, it creates, you can see a lot of the same patterns, but it's not like I still know your type. You can start recognizing functions during interaction, but it doesn't mean that, maybe that person's flexing. Maybe that person's stretching. Maybe somebody finds me to be an asshole and they realize that in order to make me happy, they need to speak more logical and more rational. So they become more rational around me, and I think they're logic-based people, but in reality, they still prefer feeling. There's all kinds of variables involved in this. So it's important that you guys understand that you can't really effectively type anybody. What a professional typing session actually entails is me cutting through your own biases, looking past the personal history, education, training, experience, and family relationships, job environment, and culture. I sift through this to be able to help you identify your type. And I do it with experience and training. So I know how to kind of sift through this stuff. Okay, if you don't know how to sift through this stuff, then I can't you can't be typed. Well, it might not be accurate. I mean, you might have a type at the end. Somebody's going to guess what you are. But it's really not going to help you much. Okay. That being said, I'm going to close out of this real quick. I'm going to pop this back open. All right. And we're going to go back to the screen here. So, okay, let's talk about, sorry, I feel like I'm out of breath today. And I don't know why. Okay, so we're going to talk about type dynamics. And let's talk about development, actually. I want to talk about conflict and development. So the application of MBTI, this is what actually the practitioner really comes into play. So, you can spend one session with a practitioner and an hour to up to 3 hours with a practitioner and get your type. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what do you do with it? I can honestly tell you, if it weren't for my training and education, I'd still be stuck on ENTJ. I still would be like your typical by the book ENTJ, because that's what I've always identified with in the past. Now I look at the ENTJ description, I'm like, doesn't quite sound like me anymore. Does that mean I've evolved from an ENTJ to, an ENT Jarzard? No, it does not mean that. What it means is that, I've learned to develop other functions and incorporate them in my personality. And I'm talking about not the type descriptions published by MBTI, but I'm talking about the type descriptions that are all over the internet, the ones that are fabricated by people. ENTJs ignore people's feelings, blah, 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 whatever else. I've noticed that those things start to shift and fade with time. And it starts with understanding, how you can actually apply MBTI. So once you know your type, for example, this is a particular book I'm using. It's called, I'm sorry, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this one's called Type and Conflict. And I can tell you by using the methods in this book, I've improved my outcomes of conflict about, 3 times. Getting into conflicts hasn't improved, but resolving them has. So looking at this as we move down, I want to say particularly, it walks you through, typology. Let's look at the point here, though. So basically, I think Eric and I talked about this, host of Talking with Famous People, and we talked about conflict a little bit on that particular channel. Sorry, I'm adjusting things here. Okay, so conflict pairs. I never really looked at it this way before, but TJ, TP, FJ, and FP. Okay, this is kind of different than what we've seen in, say, the typical NT, SF, SJ, the Kiersey style of organization. This is a conflict pair summary. So if you look at your conflict pair, you can kind of see what the cause of the conflict, what actually causes it. Okay. This is very common for me. Challenges two of authority. Absolutely. A TP, challenges two of trust. Now, naturally, that didn't jive with me at first, but then when I started understanding it, it did. FJ, challenges two beliefs. Intact relationships is the desired outcome. Respectful listening is the desired outcome for FPs. Challenges to and values is the cause of conflict. So point is, I'm not going to go over managing conflict. What I want to go over is actually how to understand how to apply it. So once you know your true type, not just some type that you're kind of bouncing back and forth between, but once you have a good fix on your type, you actually know how to do this correctly. You know how to start managing conflict by following the steps that are involved in actually managing these things. You actually can learn to improve. And this is what working with a practitioner can really help. For me, absolutely. A practitioner is not just, I'm going to type you one time and that's it. It's a coach. Now, a lot of people don't take it up on the coaching side. They just want another type. That's great. But understanding that, the practicing side is not just one time thing. It's like, I can keep working with you in order to understand that, there's more to it than just typing you. The typing you is the very big first step. Now, a lot of people like to, explore their own journey on their own, but I've never been one to waste time. Let me hide this sidebar. I've never been one to waste time, so I've always wanted to make sure that I move as fast as possible. So, what's really helped me is going through Master Practitioner and learning how to apply these things in actual, real typing, and actually how to do these things effectively, and how to move forward with these particular things. So not just type in conflict. I mean, if I look at my different, whoa, did not mean to do that. Okay, so let me pop this out. Stop showing. All right. So if I look at my particular, I said that like 12 times, but I was actually having computer errors. So there's dynamics and development. There's type and conflict. There's all kinds of different topics that we can cover. There's leadership. There's developing your leadership. There's being in the grip, how to work outside the grip. So if you feel like you're in the grip, there's ways to get out of it. And if you know your type, that's the whole thing. Typing in MBTI is a starting point. It's not something that you just learn and then you just like, okay, what do I do now? Do I justify and rationalize my behavior? No, you don't use it to rationalize your behavior. You use it as a starting point and go, wow, this is where I really need to improve, right? That's the whole point. That's the whole point of typology. Sorry, my nose is running today. I apologize. Allergies, I guess. So, yeah, you have to understand that. That's the key is really having a firm understanding of how to use type. This is what's next. Okay, so you don't just get your type and then go, okay, I'm this. It's cool being this. I'm going to brand myself. I mean, if that's what you want to do, great. But there's such a journey to be explored beyond just, yeah, I'm ENTJ. Yeah, I'm an asshole. Great. So, I mean, last week we covered, well, not last week. I guess it was a few days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, that we covered Socionics. I spent like 3 hours with a good group of people in here actually talking about Socionics and trying to understand and work that whole shebang out. And unfortunately, that video did not successfully get recorded, so I lost all that data, which is really unfortunate because Patrick came on. He offered some great advice. He pointed us in the right direction. He kind of set things straight a little bit, kind of differentiated it. And, but, Socionics is a whole different thing. But ultimately, I think they all have their application. And if you can understand it and understand it, in which the first step is understanding, you actually improve through understanding. Once you understand it, then you actually improve through understanding application. Okay, so type and application or application of type. Okay, so anyway, that is something I wanted to briefly cover, is how to, get rid of these stereotypes. Stop thinking that you can type somebody upon first look. Okay, you can't. You can't type somebody on first look. You can try. It's fun. I mean, you can look at somebody and go, wow, okay, yeah. Okay, but you can't. You can't look at me and see me eating a taco and think that my favorite food is tacos. You can't think that. You have to know. You have to ask me, do you enjoy tacos more than everything else? If it weren't for tacos, would you be miserable? If you really like tacos, is tacos the only thing you need to eat in life? I mean, if it were up to you, would you always eat tacos? You don't know that. You just see me eating a taco. Okay? So it's the same thing with type. If you see me using TI, you can't assume, oh yeah, he's a dominant TI person. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. His TI is definitely radiant in his personality. No, it's not how it works. You know, I may find that TE is inefficient in some ways. In the external world, not so much, but say in organizing my thoughts or making a logical argument, you know, or those type of things. Being able to have internal consistency in my arguments. So I may use TI. So if you see me doing that, then, oh yeah, you must be a ENTP now because you use TI. So I guess we're all kind of evolving, and we're never going to change the type because the type's your starting point. It's like, you know, you start out as a 0-year-old and you move up, you get older, but you still have this root type. You're still the son of your parents, and that's never going to change. That's your starting point. You're born into a family that say you didn't want to pick, but still that's your root type. That's who you are. And you just move from there. You grow from there. Use it as a growing experience. Okay, I may be weak in this particular area. How do I improve it? How do I apply it? How do I learn to use FE more effectively? You know, that's my whole argument here. That's my whole statement is that, you know, yeah, you can figure out your own type, but no one else can. That's what I'm telling you. No one else can. No one else can figure out your type. They can say they see these things. They can make observations, and that's their right. They can make any observations they want. That's their right. But as far as actually getting your true type, it's up to you. You just have to filter out. You have to learn how to filter out all the biases in personal history so you can understand it or understand the terms. What's the difference between introversion and extroversion? Is it because you don't like people? Well, hell, I don't like very many people either. Does that make me an introvert? If that makes sense, that's what I want. I want to make sense here. Let me share one more thing with you. Yeah, okay, I'm going to share this with you. So 1 second. Okay, so this is a sample step 2 report. We've talked about step 2 in the past, but let me get a little more specific on here. So let me move this to the side. Give me a second. Okay, so what you're going to see here is, I don't want to be distracted by that. Okay, so let's say that you're working with somebody, and this particular person thinks they know what introversion is. Okay? And I say thinks they know what introversion is because they have this idea that introverts are intimate. Okay, so this person has an intimate side, so naturally somebody's going to think they're introverted. But what if this person, that's the typist, the person doing the typing actually sees this in this person? Wow, this person's lively, energetic. They seek the spotlight. They want to be in the center of attention. They must definitely be an extrovert. Oops, this person was mistyped immediately. This can be true for any of the facets. What if they see this aspect? Okay. What if they see this and this, but then they see this, but they don't know this. They don't know that. They don't even ask questions related to this. They only see this. The typer sees this and goes, wow, this person's, wow, they're definitely an extrovert because they introduce themselves to other people. Point is, these are biases. Point is that these are things that actually do not let people find their true type. Okay? It takes skills to be able to ask questions that reveal these things truly. The report is not the answer to all your typing, mystery. Oftentimes the reports are wrong. I have to go in there and change it. Right? I have to go in there and change it and make it to where it does actually match your type. I don't change your answers so that your facets are still the same. I just change your governing preference. I move from introversion to extroversion and vice versa. It takes skills. And so my real point is, like, if you can't just take the instrument and have a good you can't just take the instrument and have a good understanding of your type. This step 2 is 444 questions. Okay, it's 144 questions. Do you think your entire personality can be summed up into 144 questions? No. The tool is just a tool. The instrument is just a tool to help the typer or the practitioner identify your type.
and help you identify your type rather. And we use it as a tool to say, well, why do you think you answered that way? You know, we've talked about how you prefer extroversion, but why do you think you answered everything over on the introverted side? Let's explore that further. Let's talk about that. Let's identify what's going on there. It's a tool. It's not like, oh, the report says you're an ISTJ, but you thought you were an ENFP. So basically, you're a liar because the report said you're an ISTJ. So you're an ISTJ. I'm sorry, you're not an ENFP. That's not how it works. Okay, so there's a lot of misconceptions about this. The report is a tool. What you pay for is the time and the experience and expertise, not the tool, the time, experience, and expertise to actually sort and sift through your biases, your education, your experience, your nurturing, your upbringing, your history, your trauma. Sort through those things to be able to identify what your true type is. That's what typing is about. It's not about giving you, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to ask you some silly questions and get you your type. Okay. And I'm going to tell you what I think you are. And that's what you are because I'm quote unquote certified. That's not how it works. Okay. With that being said, I think that's going to end this particular show. We didn't have any guests. It was just me ranting on. Obviously, I didn't think we would. It's at 10 o'clock. But in the future, like I said, I'll keep putting these up once in a while. I think Trey's going to have one tonight about, what is he going to have it about? Functions and their relationships, the interrelationships of functions. I believe it's tonight. So, all right. Good luck to everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Hope this video provided value to you, and we'll start putting up some more videos pretty soon. I just wish I had somebody else here to chat with. All right. Talk to you later. Have a great day.